就和对标上的凤凰一样，浴火重生承载着我们舰队时的愿望，这团火焰要继续燃烧下去。
我们不会为遗憾找借口，不管走到哪一步，那就是自己的实力体现。这回我相信苏宁可以一飞冲天。
几个月前，谁能想到我们会站在这里？几天之后，谁又知道我们将走得多远？
如果我们能杀出重围，请不要诧异，因为那不是奇迹，而是实力。
这一次的征程比过去都更加艰难，如果能够突出重围，我们必定将迎来蜕变。
距离这一年的完美结局只剩下最后的2个月了。这个秋天，金色的雨要让你们再次看到。
相比春天的 RW， 我们又发生了一次蜕变。这个夏天不进决赛就等于失败。
1整年的付出浓缩在这一刻，宪政之治有死无生。
LPL playoffs are coming back at you with Game 2 of our first round. We've gone from 8 teams down to 7, and today we will narrow that down even more to only 6 as we approach quarterfinals, semifinals, and beyond, because in just over a week's time, we will know what teams the LPL will be sending to Worlds. And as you can see, the arena in Beijing is filling up, and certainly while all the judging players of Royal Never Give Up get to watch and prepare for this matchup, they find themselves on the opposite side of the bracket. Again, big thank you to the Royal Never Give Up organization for hosting these few stages of playoffs as we get through, because JD Gaming, getting into playoffs during Week 8, now gets the chance to take on FunPlus Phoenix, a team with which they are currently tied 3-3 in games 1 and 1 in match points. So this looks to be a very fun head-to-head as Coach Ohm aggressively goes through all of those replays to make sure that his team is on point. Of course, their opponents, FunPlus Phoenix, will be trying everything that they can to upset that and take this series, but it will certainly be an uphill battle for them. Welcome, everyone. My name is Dom. Joining me here is Clement and, of course, Brent Raz Mohammed.
Hey, I'm doing fairly well. I'm here with Clement once again. We had yesterday's games covered. I just smacked him. He's going to get a lot more from that from me.
Why are you smacking me, man? This should be a celebration. We got 6 straight days of LPL playoff action, and day 1 was already action-packed. Went all the way to the supposed Game 5. I hope we're going to see even more bloodiness today.
Yeah, that is the big hope. Let's take a look at the bracket, though, so we can see how all of the teams shake up and where they fit in these standings as we get closer and closer to that penultimate finals. As you said, yesterday we went to Game 5, but ultimately it was TOP and Korn who advanced, who now gets to play against Royal Never Give Up tomorrow, his former organization.
Organization was started it all for him. Remember, side by side with Uzi in the finals event, going up against Samsung, is now going to be going up against him. It's redemption for him because he's had a long road coming back to this stage and performing up to par with the best of them in the LPL. So now going up against RNG tomorrow, that's something you have to watch out for.
And on the other side, we're going to the bracket side of death. EDG and Invictus Gaming await the winners of this series winners, and it's going to be JD Gaming versus FPX today.
Yeah, and of course, JD getting into playoffs a few weeks ago, Week 8. Now they get the chance to determine whether or not they deserve to be this high in the standings, because FPX barely snaked in at the last second.
Yeah, it has to be a disappointing slide for JD Gaming because they lost 3 sets in a row to lose out on that second spot position from the East, and now they have a much harder path all the way to the playoffs. On the other hand, FPX, they are on a rise. They are the phoenix from the ashes, rising up over their last 5 series and finally taking the final playoff spot on the last day.
Of course, let's take a look at the points, the championship points that are going to be contingent on this matchup. Snake, of course, has already been eliminated from contention. only the top 5 teams on this bracket are the ones that we want to look at.
Yeah, top 5 because they want to be able to, at the very least, get into the gauntlet run. Now, the 2 teams that are playing here today, JDG and FPX, simply don't have the points necessary to win on circuit points. They need to be able to either run the full playoffs to get to the final, which is a very monumental run if they can do it, or get far enough to find themselves in the gauntlet.
And of course, a small caveat is that if people have the same amount of points, the summer points take precedence over the spring points. So sorry, Snake, sorry, BLG, but you guys really don't have a shot anymore.
Yeah, they have been eliminated by this point in time. But let's turn towards teams that have not been eliminated. JD Gaming and FunPlus Phoenix. Let's start with FPX, the underdogs. This is a team that, this is the first time since they have joined the LPL, they have placed above 5th place in the standings. Since week 1 of Spring Split when they first joined, they've bounced back and forth between 5th and 6th and got close to playoffs in spring, but have only just now, in week 10 of summer, made it into playoffs.
But they gotten pretty damn close. In fact, remember in Spring Split, getting bumped out of the playoffs in the sense that they were tied in the series wins. But when it came down to the points, WE had it better, and that's what slid, how they slid into the playoff bracket. So for FPX, it's all about growth. Here's in the video coming through, Cool mentioning about them being a rise in Phoenix. And the last 3 sets from them, here are the stats from Cool and Alex. These 2 players who are the core of this lineup have been honestly the best performers coming into the playoffs here. 2nd in damage percentage, kill participation 3rd, solo kills. In the last 3 series, 4th place, 6 kills. And we're just talking about the opponents they've been going up against. EDG went to game 3. Rogue Warriors, they beat them. They beat Snake and TOP. This was a tough, coming to week 10 and 11, and they were able to do incredibly well on that one. So if we're talking about what their style really is, high octane, team fighting, because I talked about the duo in the jungle mid, but the duo in the bottom lane too have been together for 2 years now, and they've really ironed out the styles. Crisp on Alistar has been how they started out these fights, because when the issue's been in week 9 that they have not been having a lot of engage points in their compositions. It's like, wait a minute, I've been an Alistar god in newbie. I've been an Alistar god in Tachisal Gaming in the LSPL. So he just brings it right back, and he's able to start a lot of these fights. And if they've been having problems with that, past 6 games, Gimgoon's just gone on towards Cho'Gath. So the follow-up is there, and I want to see if they can continue that style going into the playoffs.
The really important thing you mentioned is recency. I feel like FPX finally woke up at the end of the season and nailed down their style. It's about late-game team fighting. It's about the Kaisa. And even though Gimgoon's a great split pusher, they're just putting him on tanks for now, and it's been working great.
Yeah, it has in at least a few of their games. Of course, looking at EDG further down in the bracket, probably not too happy about that. But their opponents, JD Gaming. This is a team that barely got into playoffs in Spring Split, got eliminated right away for 0 points by BLG, and then as early as week 8 in the Summer Split, they locked down playoffs. In week 9, they locked down at least 3rd place. They're coming in relaxed and easy into this set.
They're incredibly potent right now, and they're gunning for the top 4 in the LPL so far. Tremendous amounts of growth, but we really have to start from their roots. They are the team to always get the first strike in. They have the LPL Yankos on their team. Their first blood rating, 74%. That's 3 out of 4 games getting that first blood, highest in the LPL, and Clid has been the Yanko, so-called. He has been maining that position. 32 first bloods and almost 30% extra over the number 2 in terms of first blood participation ratings. Now, that is not Clid's picture, but that's what he looks like in my heart.
Yeah, I don't see a difference at all.
Definitely. Also, they're a very cohesive team. They have very low CS numbers across the board, but they have 3 players that have the highest roaming stats out of their positions. So you're looking at Yagao, Zoom, and Loken. They're willing to roam in the laning phase. And the way they think about the laning phase is it's a period of time where they can find players to kill. There's not a lot of difference between the early and mid game for JD Gaming. The last big point is their final carry, Yagao on his Big 4 champions. 75% win rate overall. This split more than any other, they're putting in on carry champions. The Zoe, the LeBlanc, the Yasuo, and the Azir are the big ones. So they're leaving the Galio and the Lulu to the sidelines and just saying we're putting more of our carry baskets in, more of our carry eggs into this basket.
Yeah, and he's been tag teaming with Clid and they've been doing so well in their recent sets, even though their last one going up against RNG has been poor, but the performers have been Yagao and Clid. And so if we're going into the series, going up against Cool and Alex, we want to see them perform.
Of course, we'll be keeping our eyes on that mid-jungle matchup as it has been so important, but now it's time to get to the important question. JD, you're coming in as the upper dogs, I guess, if that makes FPX the underdogs. Who's taking the series if JD have a one-game lead?
I have to go with JD Gaming. I feel like though FPX have found their style, it's very late and they only have one style. Well, JD Gaming, they're a collective on what they can play based upon Yagao's champion pool. And his champion pool honestly counters Cool quite a lot. So I have to give it to JD Gaming 3-1.
And you know what? I agree on the same damn principle. 3-1. It's funny enough because fan expectation coming into this, clearly it's going to be a 3-0. Because JD, they feel like they should be second seed in the Eastern Conference. They feel like they should have been better than RNG, but in the last day, got run over. JD going up against FPX should be a clean sweep. But for me, we always seen FPX to be the unpredictable team, especially around their team fights. And their last 5 sets have just been taking the best teams right to the brink of things. And sometimes JD can really be a little bit too lax during the late game. So I want to see if that comes through once again, and that should be enough to take that one game.
That has been a big transition for JD Gaming. We'll see if they can close this series out because, Clement, as you said a little bit earlier, they have played the most games out of LPL teams in this split at 50. But their opponents, the underdogs on the blue side, it's Gimgoon, Alex, Cool, LWX, and Chris.
This is the duos here. Alex and Cool. And then you look towards the bottom lane, that's where their power should come from.
Their opponents, Zoom, Clid, Yagao, Loken, and Lumao, trying to close this series out for a quick return home.
So many members there showed up on the All-Star LPL teams, and that's the big advantage JD Gaming have over FPX. Pound per pound, I think they have the better talent.
What's really interesting now for JDG, I want to see what the individual members Yagao and Loken can do here, because there's real discussion about them being top 3 in their specific roles, but this is when you find out. In the playoff run, if they can hit it up against the best talent, now going up against FPX, this is the start of that run, but with the bracket that they have, if they can surpass FPX to move on to, EDG, IG, this is a road that how legends are made.
We'll see if FPX can rise and meet the challenge of their rivals. Because it may not be the eye of the tiger, it's the eye of the phoenix for this team as they're trying to get themselves further in. But already JD taking away LWX's Kaisa and focusing on a very strong early mid game for Yagao, but that does leave Cool on a very strong Aurelia.
And I do feel like this is a trap being set from JD Gaming because Rise is not one of Zoe's big champions. He has a lot of champions that actually straight up counter Cool's play. The Yasuo is a great counter that he likes to run into the Aurelia, the LeBlanc as well. So there's a very strong chance that the Rise is actually a flex pick for JD Gaming.
Even still, Rise, if it's top lane, I would expect it to be in the mid lane. Just sets up for ganks, and that's how the 2v2 ends up being set up with Yagao and Clid. So if you get the Rise, you would expect Clid to be surrounding mid lane a little bit more. Knowing that he's likely going to go up against the Aurelia, you would expect there to be something fiery going in the 2v2.
Now we do have a Vladimir follow-up for FPX as it's gone to LWX a few times, it's gone to Gimgoon a few times, but we talked about Gimgoon's predilection towards tank top laners lately. We don't know if that's his twins or the staff, because he does like to play those split pushers, those fighters and brawlers in the top lane.
Last split, he just had something for the Vladimir. Even though Gimgoon had poor lane after poor laning phase matchup, he just went towards Vladimir because it had a better team fighter. So even though recency, LWX had picked up the Vladimir and Gimgoon's just been the Cho'Gath fanatic, I would expect this to actually be a Gimgoon pick here. We'll have to see it in the second round because they are still a flexible team.
Yeah, FunPlus Phoenix, for me, they're going for JD Gaming style. The styles are reversed in this draft. FunPlus Phoenix, they have a lot of mobile parts. They can find picks quite easily. They can flank very easily. But for JD Gaming, they're going more for the standard team fight. Braum has been a massive pick on 8.16 with the removal of Tom Kench, with the weakening of Morgana. So you can really see them setting up for Loken to carry.
I want JD to actually go towards the Trundle in the later picks here. Because right now they have a lot of nice CC protection for the Kaisa. Braum and Rise can do that. Adding the Trundle makes it super difficult to get on towards Loken. The worry that I have here is if you don't have the Trundle, if you have, let's say, a dive heavy pick, maybe even just a Kindred. Let's go, actually it got banned here. But let's just go, if you go for a dive heavy pick, my worry is that it's much easier for the bruiser heavy composition that FPX have to dive onto the back line. That being said, Olaf's being humble.
Well, Clement, you were just talking about how JD Gaming love to roam and maneuver across the map. They spend some of the least amount of time in their own lanes as many other players in the LPL. They just look at the laning phase as an opportunity to hunt down for more kills because they know where those lanes are, and this is how it's going to be. Urgot locked in for Zoom.
Now, we saw the Urgot yesterday. Lies played 2 games of it, and he was immediately benched afterwards. Urgot is a very hard champion to actually utilize in your own compositions, and they're also giving away the flex pick potential here. So JD Gaming, they're setting down the path of TOP. The question is, can they actually make the Urgot lane work?
Yeah, important. It feels like JDG and TOP have actually been scrimming, or at least discussing about it, because for Zoom to pick it up, I have more faith for JD to actually run the Urgot, not just because they are a better team objectively, but because Klid is a lot more decisive to work around that top lane. So if you have an Urgot that's doing well within his own lane, great. Klid can now take that pressure, look to invade a little bit more heavily. That's what I expect here for JDG.
And you also have to look at the pick sequence coming out from JDG. So they already know the Vladimir is in the top lane. They're willing to counter that with the Urgot, but they're holding the jungler for last. Now, this is pretty rare, but it signals that they understand the 2v2 matchup is the most important part. Not necessarily the 1v1 or the solo lanes, but definitely trying to get the Urgot ahead in the 2v2.
And that strategy seems to be working out for JD Gaming as they get the Olaf counter pick, as you said, focusing on that mid jungle and top jungle, and how those 2 solo lanes will end up working out, because it was the Sejuani flex from FPX, sending the Gragas down to the bottom lane, not taking it in the jungle to try and provide that surprise factor. But JD, they're not caught off guard. They are absolutely ready to try and meet them on the Rift as we get our compositions for Game 1.
Added layers to Vladimir, because recently LWX has picked it up and we haven't seen Gimgoon on it until quite some time. So Gimgoon, he's not fooling anybody. Back on the Vladimir pick. And what has been discussed as a poor matchup, a good matchup for Urgot, but what we saw yesterday was sustain in it. So if there's no pressure going towards Vladimir, Vladimir will excel in the team fights, and he'll sustain long enough to stick in lane up against an Urgot. So something will have to be done topside, early, quickly, so Vladimir isn't able to just get out of the lane scot-free.
As the coaches now step into the center of the ring to shake hands, we're about to load onto the Rift for Game 1 between JD Gaming and FunPlus Phoenix. JD, they locked in playoffs very early. They've got all of the momentum coming into this matchup. They are ready to try to close it out and advance to the next stage. But of course, the fans are still cheering on FPX, a new organization to the LPL, making their first playoff run with big names like Gimgoon and Cool and LWX. Will this be the success that this team demands?
And the stakes are definitely high for both teams. And you're right when you said match. It feels like a wrestling match. The cages are already there, so the cage is not being lowered. And the fans are watching to see which team comes out ahead. The expectation is in favor of JDG, but you got to feel like the players here for FPX are ready to go for it. I think Gimgoon on the pick here going forward should be fairly comfortable on the Vladimir, and he's an incredible Vladimir team fighter.
And I think this is the place where experience really comes into the equation, because Cole is the old veteran. He's even older than Korn, who went to the World Finals in Season 4. So JD Gaming, without a good performance in Spring Split, I actually question if this comp doesn't work for them. I feel like their mentality could take a very big hit. This is where the veteranship of Cool could make a difference.
Now as we load on to the Rift, it's time to find out who is going to start this series off with the Game 1 victory. Who will start off this best of 5 with all of the momentum in this matchup? JD Gaming versus FunPlus Phoenix in our first round of playoffs. One team will advance, the second will be disqualified.
Now, just on the level 1 alone, it's always fun to watch, especially the teams that end up picking out the Olaf Braum. You would always expect the team with Olaf Braum to look in for an invade. It's a little bit dicey just because Gragas can still hold on, level up his E, his body slam. So there's some worry there. I just think it's a bit of a waste to not make use of it.
Yeah, I did really like the JD Gaming level 1. It was a 4-man attempted pincer, and the way it works with Olaf and Braum, we actually seen this in the Asian Cups, is that if you land one axe, it's definitely going to be a flash. And it's very telling that they sent that into the top side, because they definitely need Urgot ahead.
Getting Zoom onto a carry champion is so important. He has been so instrumental to JD's success, and though Gimgoon is on something a little bit more safe with that Vladimir, it's still going to be a challenge when playing against a player like Zoom, who is even taking the Unsealed Spellbook with Teleport as his base spell. So probably going to be using a lot of those summoner spells in those lanes to try and upset the Vladimir sustain.
Yeah, what we saw yesterday for Lies is that he would hover over Exhaust a few times. There'd be Ghost in there. A lot of it is just lane focus. That's what you'd want to see for Zoom. So keeps the Teleport because as a base, wants to hold on for it just in case anything happens bottom side of the map. But just having more lane pressure is the expectation, what he wants.
And just look at those stats coming out from Cool. Like you said, he's been definitely popping off in the recent games. Number 2 in damage share, even over LWX's Kaisa. And the early game contributions for Cool, I think, is the big thing for me. Because in this slow teamfight type of meta, FPX are relying on their mid and jungle to keep the early and mid game intact.
That's something that's very important for this team. Of course, Cool joining the roster. No pun intended, but he was supposed to be the veteran. He was supposed to be the player to cool down this chaotic and aggressive team. But funnily enough, they found the most success when he's popping off, when he is, what was the phrase, Raz? Hot fire?
Fire, definitely fire,
yeah.
100%. I think a lot of times people forget what the contrast was between him and Bing.
Yeah.
Because when Bing came in, there was this non-stop aggression. When Pepper was there was non-stop aggression. And sure, there's a bit of give and take. Cool did calm them down and make them a little bit more of a slower team. But that being said, as a result, being surrounded by hotheads, Cool himself became a fiery player. So Cool, with the solo kills that he was able to get in the last patch, as you saw, the laning phase is so crucial and important for him, which is why the addition of Alex did so much.
And we do have to pay attention to the bot lane. This is a set play coming out from Jingdong Gaming. A lot of times when they hit a level lead with a minion dematerializer, they will go for the bot lane dive. And with the Braum and the wave in a good position, they do have a potential to go for that. Unfortunately, Olaf is already moving over towards Yagao, trying to find that first blood.
It's actually just hard finding a dive on Olaf, which is to your point. I mean, Klid has gone to it so frequently in the recent games. When he's found his Camille pick, something that makes it a little bit easier so he can provide any sort of CC or damage. If Olaf commits to it, you better have a good trade. They better be low enough for him to not come out of it dying, or it's a suicide mission.
I mean, isn't that always the Olaf conundrum? I'm going in, and I hope they die before I do. Especially with the Ragnarok reducing armor and magic resist. But still, not level 6 yet, so he doesn't have to worry about that Ragnarok as he's just farming around. Meanwhile, up top, Zoom still keeping Gimgoon busy, while in the bottom lane, Loken, as expected, taking a CS advantage on this very comfortable Kaisa.
LWX and Crisp has just been playing it safe, and it's really surprising for Loken and Mount to have this much control of the wave, because they had great wave control, Olaf was in position for a very long time, and LWX, I mean, the pick in the bottom lane, Xayah actually pushes so easily that it's very hard to get the wave control. So they zoned themselves out for quite a bit of time.
Yeah, I think that JD Gaming, like you said, are definitely outperforming the bot lane matchup. And I think it mainly comes from Klid's counter pick of Olaf. They definitely expected Klid to be around the Crux. You could see a couple of pings coming in from FPX's bot lane that, hey, wait a minute, this guy's probably around this corner. And they also did leash earlier for their own jungle. So JD Gaming outperforming, but doing it mainly through jungle.
Outperforming is a good, I would say it's a smart term for JDG to recognize the strengths of their bottom lane and jungle pressure, and they're making use of it. But I'm actually pretty happy for FPX not losing too much. And right now, Alex is level 5. For the jungle matchup, you'd want Klid to be able to pressure Raptors. He hasn't. In fact, the Sejuani is even in pace. And he's going to get to level 6, and he's going to be able to impact mid lane. It's something we wanted to see Olaf be able to do. So he's been hunting. It's not like he hasn't. Issue, he hasn't been able to find anything.
There are plenty of opportunities for Alex to try and upset this matchup.
God.
Again, we keep on talking about the mid-jungle setup for these two, but so far, it looks like Klid has been largely ignoring his lanes, except for that set play bottom to invade and maintain pressure for Loken to get a CS advantage. But he's turning to solo the Dragon right now, right under the noses of FPX.
It's an Ocean Dragon, he has a smite for it, so he's going to be able to have the sustain. It was a risky one because he didn't know where the Sejuani was, but he has he had a good guess based off of the pathing that Sejuani took when he first met her in the bottom side, that she was not going to be anywhere nearby. It's just risky going for Ocean Dragon because if one person makes the guess to find you, you have to flash out. And so he took the risk. Clid is a risky player, and he got a lot out of it.
Yeah, I felt like it was really smart. He was leveraging the fact that the Scuttle was spawning on the top side, so he knew that Alex, in this matchup where there's a very high chance for him to walk into the Olaf and get counter jungled, was likely going to go for straight the Scuttle in the top side, uses that opportunity, secures an Ocean Drake, and that's actually quite massive for the top lane and the bottom lane as well. That means a lot more wave clear on Loken so he can survive into the late game, and a lot more push for Zoom as well. Constantly being able to use that Q is a big thing in that matchup.
It's funny that you mentioned the side lanes, because for me, like, red lights on Yagao on the rise, who wants to sustain out in the mid lane and wants to build up his tier. He's just got a go mission to do it. Doesn't necessarily need the blue buff here. So going back in the base, building up the mana, he's going to be building up his tier actually fairly comfortably now.
As expected, this Rise taking some nice safe scaling in the mid game, plenty of wave clear to keep Aurelia locked down, and more importantly, control waves once we get into the later game. Once we start to see Cool starting to split push on that Aurelia, and preventing Cool from interacting in these expected skirmishes, as LWX and Crisp actually cancel their recall and spot Loken and Lumao head back to base.
This is a great play for the blue buff. You can see the bot lane moving up as well, at least the support at the very least.
And also, if you look at the stats for LWX, his experience and CS differences that he's had in his recent performances have been stellar. So these are just one of the examples of just waiting just to get the small advantages, pushes in the wave so he denies a little bit from Loken. He was in a bad situation beforehand, so it wasn't as if he's ahead of the matchup, but he's just trying to claw himself into being even. So as he's coming back into the lane, you know, he's going to be able to at least support some of the plays that Alex has made. But for me, one of the biggest focuses now, level 6 for Alex. So he has his ultimate. Level 7 for Cool. And Crisp is just ding 6 too. So it's a major go sign for FPX to start a play so they can start looking around mid lane.
So despite all of that setup with LWX and Crisp spotting the recall, setting up wards from Alex after the dragon, Cool pushing up in the mid lane, Yagao still walks over and takes the blue buff with pressure from Clid. JD seemed completely unfazed by FPX lunging out and finding vision, and now they're the ones who take over and take the first invade post level 6.
They're just doing this because, you know, top side's getting pushed in, so Zoom had the pressure. They know they have the numbers, but Cool's coming in.
FPX definitely lost a lot of momentum on that first play where they did not commit towards the blue buff. I believe they would have been able to take it away and get away scot-free, especially with the Gragas on the side. But them spending time, not getting a reward for it, JD Gaming come in with a great punish.
Yeah, it just depends on what their calls are. And funny enough, you already see their true colors of being individuals in this instance because it was the extra time LWX and Chris stayed in lane for, gank coming through.
Ooh, excellent stun from Cool onto Clid, but he's still thinking about the dive. Lands the undertow, flash is ready, and a great Vanguard's Edge prevents any chase from Clid. But that's flash burned by Cool.
They're trying to force Cool to base here, even using Ragnarok to make it happen, but Alex comes in at a great time, so Cool doesn't lose the minions here. So I actually think that's great for Cool. Sure, he blows his own flash, but now coming out of it is going to expend a lot of pressure for Clid for the next minute.
That was also the exhaust burned by Yagao to try and keep Cool busy in that lane, but it ends up not paying off, and still there is some good vision from FPX trying to track Clid around the map. So far, it seems like this has been a relatively standard laning phase between the two. At least JD feeling a little bit happier about it off of that set play early on and happy CS farming in mid and top.
Compositionally, this is good for JD Gaming that there is no sort of action going on. I do think that they do scale better in towards the late game. However, for their Clid, I think the Olaf didn't really accomplish much in terms of getting his team ahead. So, you know, big picture, JD Gaming are still pretty happy with it. Small picture, there are some things that maybe they could have forced a little bit harder.
It's always a hot button issue to talk about scaling here. We'll have to see off the gank.
Flash and Loken gets his own. I'm not sure if Crisp... Oh, he animation canceled out of the body slam by queuing a barrel, and Loken was able to escape before he got lined up with the hitbox. Bit of a tragedy, but that does mean that Alex is spotted bottom, and Clid starts making his way towards Herald.
The Braum door is just going to stop you anytime. So Crisp has now learned maybe don't expend the flash when Braum is up and ready. Lu Mao was ready for that play to happen. So great call for Lu Mao to stop any kind of action there. But to my point about scaling, I have to wonder about JDG scaling because Olaf and the top side of the map from JDG is actually going to be really difficult for Urgot. I think if you look at FPX, I'm just looking at the top side. Vladimir on a flank is excellent. The tank for Sejuani can make the plays happen. Aurelia is a great dive threat. So if I'm FPX, I'm not worried about my late game at all. It's just how you want to set up for it.
Now we do see bottom lane getting pressured by FPX, but look at how JD respond. They collapse on the Rift Herald instead. They just decide to rush it down mid with Zoom and Clid. They know that Cool has no flash on the Aurelia. It's tough for him to get to the minion wave. First brick goes down. The gold split amongst Yagao and Clid.
And both of these plays were coming from JD Gaming, really punishing the inaction from FPX in the bot side. They made plays, but they couldn't execute on them. They didn't make those plays work. So JD Gaming are able to capitalize on the top side. The blue buff, the Herald, 2 plays in a row. I really like this from JD Gaming. They're actually willing to take a step back and be the equalizer on the map, rather than just forcing things when they see the action happen, which is usually what JD Gaming likes.
And Clement, we should be happy about this. That's an Urgot advantage actually being put to use. The early Rift Herald, because he had to shove in. And wait a minute.
Uh-oh, Alex forced a flash. That's a good slam over the wall. Zoom, though, misses the fear beyond death. Not that it would kill, but hey, it's better to send the message.
Like, Alex is doing so much on the top side. He's trying to. The issue is that Urgot just has so much damn pressure here. Early Rift Herald being taken equals the mid lane pressure, and Cool is feeling it.
That's the Realm Warp. Remember, there's no more flash for Cool. Again, the Vanguard's edge. Clid taking the hits, and Cool still finds first blood on the outplay.
And that was just purely from the damage coming out. He was already in Ragnarok. No stuns could land on him, but they still get the kill anyway. Takes too many tower shots.
Chases it up. That's the Rune Prison. Tries to deny some damage, but no flash from Yagao. He tries to go sideways, but here comes Crisp. And Cool is going to try to act as human bait so that Yagao tries to continue walking it in, but caught by another slow. Crisp gets a barrel. He's still going almost to the blast cone, but a cask knocks him back, and Crisp finds his own.
And that's the Cool veteranship coming out of him. He is so excellent under pressure, and so for him, being run down mid lane by the jungler, and there was just already being pressure on the top side of the map, so Alex was not going to be there to join him. This was the starting point of it. So just take a look at Cool here. He understands his primary target is going to be Olaf. He mitigates a lot of the damage initially and just follows through on the turret shot. So the fans are definitely hyped up about it, and there's good reason for it.
The flash, blade surge, chase, and then an easy rundown from 3 members to collapse. You can see the fan votes on the side of your screen highlighting each of our player portraits. Yes, that is Diamond for Cool. Already 14 minutes in, the fan votes have sent him right to the top of the popularity standings. Still, though, he's got a lot of ways to go if he wants to close out this match, because despite that first blood, despite that second kill, it's still 400 gold. Loken chases it up as he collapses top. Gimgoon gonna be slowed. There's the fear beyond death just over the wall. No, Gimgoon walks it off.
So close every time, and it's JD making the best use out of the Urgot pick once again. So they're just trying to make traps here. Gimgoon never feels at ease. It's a good difference between today and yesterday. Yesterday, Vladimir's coasting on that island for free, sustaining up, never under threat of a dive. This time around, Gimgoon has had to have repeated bases.
Now, we did see the rotation from JD as they tried to rush top and find a kill, but the damage that LWX and Crisp did with some help from Alex earlier pays off. They get the turret first and have a slight tempo advantage in this, though it's JD who are the ones who take the step. In addition to that, Loken went for the Gwinsu's Rage Blade instead of Storm Razors first, which is a bit of an interesting choice. Not that we haven't seen AP Kaisa, but his effective damage in these fights are going to be slightly lower comparatively to LWX.
Yeah, he's definitely looking at the possibility of a lot of frontline threats just running at him. So in that sense, the AP build with maybe the Runan's Hurricane, you can get a lot of plasma stacks off. I do want to note about the Urgot thing you were saying. JDG's composition, they're so built to follow up on the Urgot. They have the Realm Warp and they have Loken flying in with Killer Instincts, so whenever the Urgot steps forward and plays aggressive, it puts doubt onto FPX's side, unlike what we saw from TOP, where the Urgot most of the time did not want to venture out of River.
And so they just have great frontline damage, as in they can deal with the tanks coming through. The Gragas is going to have difficulty. Same with the Sejuani, going up against the Shred that the Urgot's going to have, and the AP build Loken has.
They saw him over the wall, but they still decided to take the fight. Another Vanguard's Edge, and they chase it down, finding the kill. A good Glacial Fissure and the knock-up as LWX finds one. as 5 FPX stack and find themselves another 2 kills.
They're going to find a large reward for this. This is a cannon wave on a tower that they should be able to get, and they have tanks ready for. I don't know if JD even wants to be anywhere nearby. This is diveable.
Loken is backing away from the wave. That's a Realm Warp to get Yagao into range, but already the next wave crashes in. With a good aggro juggle, LWX is able to finish the turret off, and now it's 2 turrets to 2. And with those kills, FPX find themselves with an advantage.
And that's just the extra mobility from FPX's composition. They're just grouping up faster, and you can see JD Gaming were forced to clear out all the wards that Crisp has put around this mid lane. They're playing around cool now. They have wards on both sides of the jungle, and even though JD Clid did spot out some of the members here, he still took a step a little bit too much forward. And look on the map right now, it's a 1-3-1 situation for JD Gaming. Clear 5-man dive.
That's a sad reality of an Olaf. You're a snowballing champion one way or another. So I thought that Clit had been making proper decisions on the top side around vision control and challenging for camps. But he's really getting punished in just these raw team fights. He's challenging for the ward, as you saw there. FPX are ready for that fight.
Yeah, JD looking a bit reckless as they try to stack bottom lane. They step forward and set up plenty of vision, but FPX are able to defend and rotate safely under the turret. A good proto belt to clear out the wave, but Loken walks up. And unless there are going to be some ultimates to break it down, this turret falls.
There is no Sejuani ultimate, so that's the big reason why JD Gaming are willing to step up.
Also the fact that LWX is top lane. So not only just the fact that they didn't have the engage potential out of Alex if they wanted to outplay, but once again LWX is doing his a double lift impression. Top side of the map when his team is nowhere near him. So sure, he gets a lot of gold personally that he can put in his own bank account, but as a team they lose out in the bottom side pressure.
Overall, that trade should be favorable towards FPX. They do get the better experience out of the entire ordeal. JD Gaming did a 5-man stack into the bot lane, so I would actually give a small advantage towards FPX in that trade.
So let's take stock of where the game is right now, because we're getting closer to that 20-minute mark. We're starting to see, now that we're transitioning out of this landing phase, all of the outer turrets are gone. Are we still looking to Alex and Clid to set this up, or are we expecting the expected 1-3-1s from both teams to be what really determines what happens in the next few minutes?
It'll be really hard for Clid, not only because he was squishy to begin with, he's 0-2-0, so the problem is he's just a target to run at. So maybe he does that if he thinks that he can play for time, but I would expect it to more so be Lu Mao on the side of JDG coming out with his ultimates to trying to knock up, just because they're a little bit desperate for the engage to get back into this one. But I agree with you. FPX, Alex should be the one that starts it up. Maybe sometimes Cool, they both picked up a stopwatch, so they should be the ones that are the primary engaged force of the team.
So important to set up that vision and track where those junglers are heading around. As Clid, he's doing his duty.
And this is a very slow composition coming out from JD Gaming. If you look at their AD carry picks, they rarely go for the Kai'Sa. They're one of the least heavy Kai'Sa teams in the entire LPL. They're much more prone to go for Ezreal or the Varus, have someone ready towards the mid game. And this strategy for JD Gaming, if they want it to work and get towards the later phases of the game, they actually need Urgot to apply a bit of pressure. Have him step out, have backup ready for him, and make that a contesting point. Because one-on-one, he can still take it to Gimgoon.
So far, Zoom has effectively been on an island, except for when his team has rotated towards him. He's got some of the most solo kills in the league, at I believe second place at 12 solo kills during the laning phase. Very, very talented top laner, but he needs some help to get it going in this game, because it is against Gimgoon, who's so good at absorbing pressure, especially on a Vladimir with flash available.
Yeah, I think that, we've seen some moments yesterday where an Urgot can take over on that front. Maybe Zoom can outplay because he's just that damn good of a player. I want to see what ends up happening. If you make a mistake around him, he just picked up his Righteous Glory, so there's a heavy possibility that he can go for a kill. So maybe he stays in that side lane and tries to pick apart Gimgoon in that situation, or he joins his team and gives them a speed boost so they can roll him forward. They have an Olaf, so that would be the largest benefit.
It almost seems as though, just looking at how these players are maneuvering around their map, that we're seeing JD take a defensive step back. Zoom isn't pushing past the river. He knows there's no one on this side of the map, but look at all of the vision. There are 5 wards on the bottom half to allow him to take the fight against Gimgoon, but he's not stepping forward. Could this be some stage nerves for JD, remembering what happened to them in playoffs in spring?
It's a hard possibility. Also, just the fact that they know that if they make one mistake 21 minutes into the game, that turns into an outright Baron. I don't think he wants to be the reason for that, the cause of that. And at the point, he recognizes that they're actually losing so much pressure on the top side of the map that he just wants to farm up. He has his second item. If he can get at least a stopwatch, something that prepares him for a fight, then he's going to be happy.
Yeah, it definitely comes down to the map control that FPX have over the map right now. They also have the flanking potential, like we're seeing right now. Unfortunately, it is going to fizzle. So I think JD Gaming, I like what they're doing in the bot side. Walking through the lane, Loken is unspotted, and this is how you really want to snowball your...
Get him! There's the Righteous Glory. This is a set play that we've seen before. He ducks down, flashes over the wall, and unless this Void Seeker lands, which it does, Loken's not going to follow, but he does chase up with the Killer Instinct. Fear Beyond Death, Gimgoon. There's nothing you can do to escape that, and JD are on the board.
That was just such great timing, too. Because ordinarily, you would expect the enemy team to be like, all right, ping, massive ping the Baron buff, but they weren't in position. So they knew that the Vladimir would get burned so quickly and that Zoom would have the teleport to join in on the play. So they're like, all right, we'll take our losses here.
Yeah, I don't think they could have gone for Baron right there. It would have been a 4v4. Zoom still holding on to his teleport in the fight. And without the damage coming up from Vladimir, they probably just can't, even if they take the Baron, they probably could not escape with their lives on that.
Such a creative play coming out of JD, where we're also just questioning the fact that they might not make it back from this deficit. But Loken just finds an opportunity bottom lane. I'll say Uzi yes, because that's how you make use of the Kaisa mid-game into it. If you have a split pusher roaming on you, that's how Uzi made it happen during multiple finals in the LPL. So this time around, you see Loken saying, I'll make the same strategy work here so we can find an advantage for ourselves.
Now, despite the fact that Gimgoon has respawned, we didn't see any Dragon take from JD. Instead, they tried to get control over the vision of the Baron pit. But that's a stun, a cask, Ragnarok now utilized. Finally, the Dragon taken, but that's 3 members of JD invested bottom, which FPX are happy to trade a second Ocean Dragon for control over the Baron pit. 23 minutes in with a 2-item Zaya, they're actually turning onto it. They've even got cool 5 members there.
And JD Gaming, they don't see it until now. I wonder where Zoom is actually going to find his teleport positions. There is one in the inner tri-brush, but it seems a bit late.
That's the engage onto the front. Once again, Klid, he's got no Ragnarok. He's trying to walk it forward. Caught by the stun. He goes golden with the stopwatch, but has been swarmed by members of FPX. A stun onto Alex.
Oh my
He goes
God.
low. Loken steps up. He finds one. A great Fear Beyond Death resets it as JD collapse and take the fight, getting the ace over FPX.
Right on top of Baron too, so there's only one answer here. JDG take a monumental fight coming back into the game, evening the gold, and it's going to only just skyrocket. They're just going to be able to take it.
And Loken was in such a good position. He was waiting on the flanks. You could see that Cool used all of his abilities towards the ramp. He was trying to cut off JD Gaming from escaping in that route. But Loken, seeing his opportunity, went straight in. And there wasn't really a lot of ultimates coming in from Chris to then blow him out of the fight.
And here's the thing, because I know we'll get to see the replay right after this, is I actually like that play coming out from FPX. They already got the ultimate out of Klid. That was the whole point of that. Knowing that they could get an assured kill, because Klid wasn't going to be able to get him out of that. 2 stuns expended to get the kill. The issue is that there's no one being able to threaten Loken. So Loken's just sitting there for free as the AoE gets locked down by Rise. And so he just comes right in, executes the tank, and is able to clean up. So while I like the idea of the play, they just had no idea how to loop around with their flank composition on towards Loken.
And what presence of mind from Zoom in the chaos of 10 members on his screen. He sees the Sejuani going low, lands the Fear Beyond Death, waits when she's in execution range so he can flash into the remaining 4 members of FPX and land a 4-man Fear so that Loken can clean it up. This is why we call him one of the best top laners in the league. 3-0-2, now with a GA under his belt.
Yeah, and the big thing is that FPX, all 3 of their big CC abilities were already expended going up the ramp. The Flawless Duet coming out from Cool already, the ultimate down. Chris did not have his ultimate or his stun. Alex as well. So it was a very good opportunity for Loken to go in, and you really have to applaud him from seeing that opportunity and being willing to put himself in the midst of 3 people to clean up the kills.
And honestly, FPX may not have another opportunity. They might have one last fight left in them. It depends on how well they're able to soak up this pressure. But they need to understand the positioning. Maybe they learned that lesson last time around, that Gimgoon can't come front to back. Of Vladimir going up against Olaf, Rise, Braum front to back, it's not going to happen. You need to be able to find a flank position. You don't need to necessarily do anything. just stare Loken down so he can't do anything.
So there are a handful of wards still on the map for FPX, but they are scattered. They're in no position to set up for a flank or a deep teleport. And JD are aggressively swinging this Baron under the tier 2 Glacial Fissure as it's a quick Realm Warp after the bottom tier 2 was already broken to the mid to break it down. 5 turrets to 3. And JD, they know there's still plenty of front-to-back engage on the Sejuani, on the Gragas that could split them up, but they don't take any chances. As a unit, they back away and recall, still with 60 seconds on this Baron buff.
And I really like the Zoom build right now. I understand his philosophy with the Urgot build. Like you said, it is about the front-to-back team fights for him. So an early Guardian's Angel just to keep him in the fight as long as possible. If you want to reach the back line, you have to go through Zoom.
Yeah, just a great recipe too. Having the early stopwatch is what was necessary for him to be a lot more, I guess, ballsy in the play, looking to just outright start the fights for him. Now he has just the go sign anytime the Guardian Angel is up. So it's a bit of a snowball mechanic because you have Guardian Angel. Who are you going to start the fight on? Not going to be the Urgot who's going to res himself. So it should just have the most value with its first going. I don't think there's going to be a way for FPX to peel him off. If they get a mistake, sure, then they're going to be able to kill Zoom and make his GA useless. But at the moment, it's just hard for FPX to start a fight when he's walking at you.
And of course, it should be noted that that's going to be quite the challenge for FPX. As the Baron buff is set to run off, we're still seeing JD set up for a siege. They've got themselves 3 items on LWX, that IE finish, so he's going to do some big damage. 2 items on Cool, plus his own stopwatch. You said FPX might have one more team fight left in them. Well, they've got some pretty big item buys to set them up for it. Another 2 items from Gimgoon and JD. They see those items, they press tab, and they're like, maybe we shouldn't siege without the Baron.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to be starting to take a step back on that because while I said that as long as they can play it safely, they have a very easy way to do just that. LWX has a lot of wave clear here just based off of his feathers alone, and he has 3 items for himself. So your point about just the items that they've picked up here, LWX is going to buy them a lot of time. And cool having Steric's Gauge just means that if you fight into me, I have a lot of ways to just be able to dip and dive in these team fights.
Yeah, the main damage source from JD Gaming is definitely still coming from Loken, and he is behind in terms of his build. Did go for the safer Quicksilver Sash. So JD Gaming is likely going to wait out that difference.
Oh, but it's a trap. Cool gets caught split pushing. That's actually going to be the Righteous Glory as Cool tries to walk it up in the Realm Warp in order to escape.
Is that JD Gaming?
Look at this vision that they've got set across the map right now on your mini-map. 4 members of FPX were rushing to Cool's aid to collapse and defend him. JD hear the call to back away, and despite 3 members collapsing on a target, they turn and run.
Yeah, I was so surprised about that. I was ready for the JD Gaming mid-game fiasco because they're a team where they have a lead at 20 minutes. They actually have one of the worst win rates possible. And a lot of times it is the over-aggression. They fixed their Baron issues. They haven't fixed their addiction to aggression. But that play right there shows me that JD Gaming are ready for playoffs.
Honestly, if it was a mage that they were going up against, they probably would have still went for the play. It was just an Aurelia with a Steric's Gauge and stopwatch because there's just so much time to bully through an Aurelia HP pool that they should have recognized. And in the end, they did. That this is going to take way too long, and the rest of the team is going to be able to come out and help her.
And this is such an important lesson for JD Gaming to learn. I think you said it best. This is a team that is addicted to aggression. They love to fight you in the mid-game, skirmishing over Barons, skirmishing over Dragons, but they know they have to wait for Loken to be there. He's got that 3rd item completed with the Rabadons now. Yagao is working on his own 4th item, looking for a Void Staff next. As a Spectre's Cowl has been picked up for Zoom, now they've got some big items. Now they're moving up and ready to fight. Round 2 might be on the docket here for JD.
Just want to see what we get here because round 2, I mean, we laid out what it would look like, but FPX don't want any part of it.
At this point, yeah.
It's like
a
boxer that doesn't want to sign on the dotted line, so what do you even do?
It's fight us when we're strong, but not when you're strong.
Yeah.
And now that the tables have turned, FPX are trying to back away and go for that 4th item spike, though Cool tagged by that Void Seeker. Baron's up in 30 seconds. If they didn't want to fight, well, the clock is ticking down and sand is running out.
LWX is actually going to a straight glass cannon build, so you don't usually see 80 carries go straight for like 100% crit. Right on the 4th item, you see a little bit more of a defensive build, maybe a Guardian Angel, but he's got his second Zeal item. So 90% crit should be able to maybe boost that up to 120. Not going to be able to get too much off that. But for LWX, that means that if he is well protected in the next fight, he's going to be blasting through the squishies. So LWX is going to be doing a lot for Loken if he can find Loken.
And honestly, I feel like he could blast through the front as well. Not a lot of armor coming out from either Zoom or Clid right here. In the next big fight, however, I think LWX is really important, but the flank coming in from Gimgoon or Cool are equally going to be crucial. In the first fight, the 4 members were caught in Glacial Fissure. I think that was a big reason why they lost. They do need to use the mobility and the flanking potential, and they do actually have the wards set up to execute on that.
We see constant wards being cleared out by JD. They got to the pit first. They set up their control wards. Though, as you're just pointing out, there is a deep teleport ward just on top of the pit that hasn't been spotted. But still, JD decide to move as a unit, control the minion wave mid before getting pulled back towards this Baron. And a quick recall from Lumao to stock up on wards once again as he makes his way back onto the map. That means Clid is all by his lonesome right now.
Yeah, you might want to watch out here. But I guess he has some protection with Loken.
Predator to escape.
So you still have to respect Loken, who's playing the bodyguard. I guess the theme is not there for Kai'Sa to be helping out the big burly guy. But it's the reason for that is because Rabadon's death cap being built up by Kai'Sa, she does a lot of damage at this point in the game.
Very big.
If you give her a lot of time with just one member, she's going to burst through him. A lot of time with just the Baron buff, it's definitely a quick one. So there's a reason why FPX are looming around the area so closely, because they can't allow JD for the second on towards the objective.
Now Zoom is trying to control the wave mid against, whoa, Loken, he hit LWX, but that's a fight on the front lines. Wow. He's bursted Alex so low, and the Fear Beyond Death over the wall, a Realm Warp to try and chase, but JD, they find a fight on 2 fronts, and they're able to pick and choose which morsel they want.
Yeah, that's the go sign. They're going to go right towards the Baron because there's no jungle available. Alex face checked. He was the only one that could do it, and now he paid the iron price.
And there's that Baron shred you were talking about. Loken bores through its health and tears it apart. A single stun hits Crisp, and he gets shredded. In addition to that, it's JD finding openings on 2 fronts, and now they've got control of the map once again.
And that really was JD Gaming having confidence in Zoom that he would be able to get out of that situation. I don't think Alex had a bad read at all. Zoom was caught off in a bad position where he could be all in right there. So Alex thought, hey, maybe JD Gaming's members, they're moving to the right. This is our chance to force our way into River. However, Lumal was waiting there in position the entire time, just waiting for him to face check.
That's not JD. We're not going to defend someone who's splitting on the other side. We're going to step forward and try to fight to pull attention away from him. And that's what we see right now, as it's a Baron push on 2 inhibitor turrets at the same time, and a massive wave building bottom. That AP Kai'Sa tears through the first inhibitor turret. Can't break down the inhib just yet because FPX are setting for a fight.
Yeah, I don't see FPX being able to land a successful one if they do pick a fight. That could just be a game-ending moment. It's just so hard fighting up against a Baron Rise team who can just send a minion wave straight towards the mid lane. They don't need to do it since they have a bear inhibitor, but you know, they have the options of just sending the minions towards the top lane. Look at the cannon wave tops already doing a lot of damage.
That's Zoom getting knocked in by the cask. Remember, he's got the GA. He's stunned and locked down, but he's the tank. A huge Hemoplague is going to get a lot of AoE. Lumao burning down low along with Zoom. It ticks, but no one dies. And somehow JD are able to survive. The GA is still up for Zoom.
And I believe Gimku actually missed out on his Zanya. A little bit unfortunate. He got the ult down. If he could survive that, he could come back for a second rotation of damage. But with him down so
That's
early...
the Fear Beyond Death. They're looking for the fight. That's a snare, a knock-up to find the 2 tanks into the back. But Cool is undefended. He dives forward but dies, and JD are rushing it down. They've found LWX. Loken is chasing the kills. That's the ace with the triple kill for Loken as he turns on to the Nexus turrets. And this is JD Gaming taking game number 1.
Overwhelming damage. That's exactly what they had to go up against. I don't know how FPX could reel back from that one going into game 2, but that was just impressive.
Yeah, and there's the double triple kill coming out from Kai'Sa. He only played it 2 times throughout the regular split. When it comes to 8.16, when it comes to playoffs, the team is still willing to expand on their carry pool and give Loken a time to shine with a champion that he doesn't normally touch.
It's fun, interesting. They're just as patient as we last left them, I would say, midpoint of the regular season, where they did have some item spikes that they needed to wait on. But the moment they got it, shot right up in the gold difference. You could see where they're able to just rev in the aggression. It's because they waited for the Rabadon's death cap to be picked up by Loken, and they were willing to fight off of it.
Such a huge setup from JD Gaming and such measured patience from them to play towards their windows of power. This is something that JD have done historically towards in the past, but their windows of weakness have been their huge crushes. In this game, they have identified those windows and completely shut them out, stalling FPX in this 35-minute victory.
There's so many times that they actually pulled back when an aggressive play presented themselves. So that is tremendous growth from JD Gaming. The big reason why we favor JD Gaming so heavily is because of their flexibility. This was an off build for JD Gaming. It's not what they normally play, but even when it goes to those late games, into those big scaling team fights, they're able to outperform FPX on something different, and that's the big strength. They have so many weapons to take down FPX, while FPX are still struggling with maybe one or two.
And more importantly, there's the confidence around that, because we already saw this kind of a style when TOP shorted up. But the confidence of being able to hit quickly, hard, decisively, and in the side lanes as well. I thought Urgot was actually an incredible pick here, where it didn't work for Lies yesterday, not because of the player individually, but the team playing around it. I thought that Urgot, when he was in the bottom side of the map, a lot of pressure when Kaisa helped them out. And then I thought there was a lot of plays happening around the Urgot when he was on the top side of the map to either get for a Rift Herald, a blue buff, or just to fight around his own engage.
And this might be where we see some of the stylistic differences between both JD and FPX, because the way that this happens is through clear communication. Every single member on the team needs to be on the exact same page at the exact same time. And we said so much about FPX. This is what looks like a collection of players, whereas JD, this is a team.
Yeah, and this is one of the big fights that really changed the series. Before this, FPX were in the lead, but Loken finds a great window of opportunity to go into the backline, and they honestly take so much damage from the Urgot trying to force themselves up the ramp. So, that was just the teamfight prowess from JD Gaming, really showing itself and saying that we have more weapons than just like the early game. We also have the teamfight edge over FPX.
And the teamfight intelligence coming out of Loken, one of the biggest points about that teamfight too is just the fear coming out from Urgot, the slow that he had with his Randuins, gave so much space for the CC as well for Loken to do damage. So I thought that Urgot in the teamfights, you don't get to say that often. The CC from Urgot did a lot for them. So I would love to see an Urgot once again. Everybody would love to see it. But this is a time where it's not hindering their team fights.
Yeah, huge setup from JD. Of course, the man who knocked it all down was Loken for JD Gaming, taking that AP Kaisa and going for the greedy route. 2 items QSS, not Zanya's. No stopwatch anywhere near that. And then into a full Rabadon's at 7-0 and 5.
And this is so scary for opponents facing JD Gaming, because they look at Loken, they think he's an Ezreal, they think that he's an Varus, probably not the main carry of the team, but he pops up with this performance and shows that he is in tune with 8.16. He can play the most coveted AD carry on this patch, the Kaisa. 40.7% of his team's damage, an absolute beast.
40 points, 40%, that's a lot. That's a lot of damage for a Kaisa. You just play around it so easily, and you can just get the pick potential off of anybody you look towards. So that was actually excellent coming out of Loken.
Yeah, well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. As we go, though, to hold you over in between matches, let's take a look at our most recent episode of Face to Face.